Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting. And LightKey is one of our favorite apps for lighting on a computer, specifically a Mac. And we're going to go in this video and walk through just the basics from, the get-go, from the complete start. How to set up LightKey, how to get going in it, how to build your first parts of your event, whatever that may be. And cover that all here on LightKey 4 as a tutorial. So I hope you guys enjoy this. We love LightKey because it walks you through everything. It's just really great to use. It's an awesome user experience. And it has a lot of capabilities for external triggering, such as from MIDI or OSC devices, which can be really, really powerful, especially if you're in a permanent installation. So check this out, watch, and of course we have reviews and everything. We'll link to all that below as well. First things first, LightKey. When you start it, it will tell you if you're in free mode or if you have a license with channel outputs. If you're in free mode, then you're going to be stuck with just 24 channels of output. But regardless, you can still set everything up. You can play around with the lights you have. You just can't output more than 24 channels if you're looking to check it out before you buy it. And if you do go through a link below, by the way, if you're going to buy it, we greatly appreciate that. It helps us out. And we get a slight commission from LightKey, but it doesn't change your cost at all. So first thing you do, launch LightKey, press New Project. Give it a name. And now it starts walking you through the setup of your DMX output. Now, a lot of times we do a USB, just an NTEC DMX to USB Pro device. Actually, I've got one here, literally right here, plugged into my PC. And that's actually the fancy silver one. But they're usually a little black box. And they're probably the simplest way to get output from a LightKey. You plug it in, you get going. That's all. But if you're doing multiple universes or you're already on a network-based system, using something like SACN is going to be a better bet. And so that's what I'm using today because I'm talking to a virtual lighting rig on my other computer. And if you have any questions about the right interface for you for LightKey, just reach out to us at Learn Stage Lighting Gear, and we'll link to the DMX USB Pro below. They're good, they work great, and they're cost effective. So next we go ahead now and bring in our lights. So there's tons and tons of lights in here, and the good thing is you can search. And so in this case, I've got some Gamma LED Vision Borealis RCs. So I'm just going to drag one in here, and then we're going to add our fixtures. So we want to add 10 of those. And then this drop down is going to let you choose the mode of your fixture. Now, this is important to set up to get right to have the proper settings for your lights. Some fixtures, depending on what modes you choose, actually pretty much any fixture, different modes are going to give you access to different feature sets. So you may have smaller modes that use less channels, which can be helpful, but you might not get as fine-grained control of that light. So take a look at that before you start. You just want to be aware of that kind of stuff. In this case, I'm happy with the 14 channel mode. I'm going to patch it. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab some Gamma TX5s. And it looks like I have 6 of those. Whoops. We are using the 18 channel mode. A lot of times with moving heads, you're going to see, like here, we have a 16 channel and an 18 channel. The only difference is the pan and tilt fine or 16-bit channels, and they help the light move more smoothly and be more exact when you're shooting at longer distances. So in general, unless you're really trying to save channels, you definitely want to have 16-bit pan and tilt. Last, we have some Starburst PARs. So those are the 7x18 watt. I mean, they're technically the V2 version. Whoops, we want it there. We are in 6-channel mode, and we have 8 of them. Awesome. And then, oh look, I'm actually out of channels, so some of my stuff isn't going to output. That's okay. So next, we're going to go ahead and like I always say on this channel, we're here to teach, we're here to educate people. We pay for LightKey ourselves. I pay for it. I renewed it actually not that long ago. And so we appreciate you going through our link. And if you need lights, if you need an interface for LightKey, if you need anything, what we do at Learn Stage Lighting Gear is we help people find the best lights for their need that are going to be really reliable for you, good lights. But, if you're on a tight budget, we often know of creative places and brands you might not have heard of that make really good stuff. They just don't spend money on marketing, or maybe there's something from the major brands that fits really well. We just love helping people out over at Learn Stage Lighting Gear. So now we hit next. And now you go ahead and you build your preview. So this is, somewhat optional, but not really, because you really want to go in here and set this up to look like your lighting. Okay, it just makes everything easier because then you're able to work with it fluidly and just go, oh, this visually is in this place, this visually is in that place, etc. Okay, and so, for example, I'm actually going to look back real quick. Hope it's not going to let me go back yet. So, in theory, MH1 through 10 are my Borealis. And I don't remember exactly how I set them up. Because it's a while since I made this visualizer file. And so, we're going to fly by the seat of our pants. So we're just going to put the Borealis and the TX behind. The PARs. I know the PARs are actually in the back, so this is all going to be wrong. But that's okay. We'll fix it in a few. So that's the first things. Build your preview. Then it walks you through and automatically gives you some group options, or has you create your own groups. I'm not the biggest fan. Groups are okay. It just takes a few extra clicks to get into them. But I'm just going to do the create groups for me. See what happens. Probably nothing. That's okay. Now we set the light beam directions. So in general, this is where you basically calibrate each light to match what LightKey's showing. And it makes it so that you can program without having your lights on a lot of the time, which can be cool. It doesn't actually affect the output. So like if the beam's going left and it's really going right in real life, like that's not going to be affected. That's not going to be messed up if it's wrong. It's just the visual representation. Okay, so you go ahead and do this, and you'll see it on your stage, hopefully. I think I see it moving around. We have the stage all dark right now. So basically, you go ahead and make sure that wherever the light is pointing, that's where it's pointing. Then you go ahead, and you'll see the light rotating. So we see the light rotating there on our stage. And it is going clockwise in this. And actually, I can see what was going on there. Is basically the home position on this one for LightKey's actually back here. And so now, when it gets to the rotation part, it's kind of dark and hard to see, but in real life it'll be better. Now you can see, as it rotates in LightKey, it does indeed match what we're seeing on the screen. Awesome. Next, you have limits that you can set, where you can drag these handles to set limits for how far it can go back or forward. I personally don't really like setting limits because I feel like, even if it's a light that's right against the back wall and you go, oh, I never want to light the back wall. What happens that one time you do want to light it? The software won't let you. So maybe that's me just being a lighting nerd, but I don't like setting limits. But if you're in a situation where you're like, hey, I never want to go past this point, then go ahead, set those limits. And then perspective is just basically, okay, are we looking at this from above, left, right, if you want to change the icon, you can. It doesn't really matter. All right. So they're going to have you do this for all the lights, which can be kind of tedious, but the good thing is, like, if they're all the same way, like I know these are, then it'll get started here. And you can get them all set up. You see here, so now we're matched. So you're gonna want to run through those. We'll skip over this for the sake of this. So we'll pause this, come right back once I've finished all these. All right, so I finished those. One thing I did discover quick is that you can select a whole group. I guess I didn't have them all selected in case these are all in the same group right now, and we're gonna fix that in a minute. and you can set the directions for that entire group at once. So that can be helpful because a lot of the time when you hang, you should hang lights all the same direction if they're coming from the same spot and the same type. So, that makes it easier. Next, that's it. See, that's it. Have fun creating magical light shows with LightKey. Isn't that so nice? All right, so we've got our various lights here, and you can see here, I told it to create groups for me, and it put everything in one group. That was not helpful. So what we're gonna do instead is you can go and hit edit up here and select all these lights, and then this is the group button, this little dotted line. And so now I'm gonna go ahead, and in this case, I'm actually gonna go ahead and do every other par mirrored in a group so that it's really easy to grab them and do like little 2-color setups. But then on the movers, I'm just going to do all of one type of mover, all of the other type of mover, done. Obviously, as I mentioned before, this isn't arranged perfectly, so like let me just show you here. Boy, I don't even know where these pars are. Oh, that's right, only one of them works. They're behind the band, so we'll just remember that there. Then these movers are, real quick, I'll show you here. Okay, so they're in various places, but regardless, this representation is going to work for us. All right, let's talk about programming in LightKey. Programming in LightKey is pretty simple, which can be really helpful. You can do the live tab buttons, which are individual cues on single buttons, and you could do that as well as put cues in cue lists, though I would say it definitely, it's definitely more so, what am I thinking? It's definitely more so that more often people, I would say, do buttons, and I think the button functionality is a little more refined. Not to say you can't do Cuelists in LightKey, you can, but when you lock yourself into a cue list, it can be hard to jump around and be live and on the fly. So programming is really as simple as you've seen me probably do here, is selecting some of these lights. So let's just select a group, or we can tap into it, double click and select a single light. And then you get your controls down here. Now, the one thing I always not loved about LightKey is here down in these controls, there's no position. So you hit Shift P to get position, and that's separate from everything down here. Not a huge deal, but just something that kind of annoys me. But then you can just, as you see here, it's really, really simple to just grab all of these lights, place them in a position, go ahead and grab some other attributes, like, where is the zoom on these buggers? That's a good question. Why we don't have zoom? That's okay. Could be something up with the fixture profile. And so, So we'll hit enter for done, and then Shift Z. Oh, I guess zoom on these is also in one of these pop-ups. Again, not my favorite, but you know what? They've got it. And so now we've put these together. Cool. It's looking good. We're happy. Maybe we grab our second set of lights, also turn them on, give them some positional data. That looks pretty cool. Shift Z for zoom. Now, if you're wondering where I'm getting these shortcuts, you might be like, where are you getting those shortcuts from, David? It's from over here. It tells you what all the shortcuts are. In addition, if you have a touch bar, I believe a lot of this kind of stuff shows up on there as well. Again, PC guy in a Mac world, so that's that. I wish LightKey ran on PCs, but that's okay. So when it's time to save a cue, there's a couple ways to do it. Simplest but not best is you go here into the live view and hit right click, new button. What's better though is to go over here and build presets. Now I like to, with the presets, organize them. So I like to go ahead and make some groups. Maybe one for my Borealis. And then this one, allow, call it my TX5. Okay, and what that does is instead of making a preset basically here that has lots of things in it, that has, you know, colors and different fixtures, I like to keep things organized. So I'll go in here, like for my Borealis, and dimmer at full. Then I'll just go, if I have this highlighted, I can actually hit Apple N, and then I get an at full preset. I can then build my cues. So we build cues on the live tab. The best way to do it is to go in here and drag in an attribute. Okay. Then you can right click, you can rename this, for example, and I can even adjust it either by right clicking to control type or over here. There's some attributes about how the button works. I just like to go, we can make it a fader. Okay. So now it's a fader. Now we can work with it. I'm actually going to put it over here. If we wanted to add more attributes, more things on the same button, we just drag them onto that same button and they're going to show up there and be usable. Okay. But right now we're turning them on so that way we can select them and build some presets with only color, some positions, some palettes over here with only color. Okay. So say, for example, I go red. And the nice thing is when I have a folder highlighted, again, I can just hit Apple N. It auto names them based on a guess. And so, for example, you can literally just go in here and create a bunch of color ones really quick. Green, blue, cyan, magenta, yellow. Then I like to do a nice violet. Hey, got that one right. And then a white. So you notice here that these are all deep colors. If you want to desaturate them, and then you go ahead here and do so. In addition, like most color pickers in lighting consoles, this only works with the red, green, and blue channels of the white. So for example, we also have white LEDs. It's a red, green, blue, white fixture, and you can bring those up separately as desired. So maybe I take my red, green, blue, saturate it up, bring those guys in. There's also the virtual color temperature, which this fixture has. Some have, some don't, which affects the output of that light. And so then we'll go ahead and save that guy. Cool. We'll call this right click, warm white. It's not a great warm white, but it'll do for a tutorial. And so a few more things just to keep going. I don't want to keep you all day long, but as we mentioned, you just go ahead here and then you're going to build, you know, different presets for, you know, for color, but you're also going to go and, you know, build different positions, right? Where you grab these lights all together. You might go and use the fanning. Oops, not the effects. We'll get there in a second. We'll go and grab the position. And then fanning, this one, not that one. At which point you can adjust where the fixtures are across the range, which is really cool. It's very cool how you can kind of set multiple points for the fan. The way that it works in LightKey is a little bit unique. I made something somewhat ugly. And then I could save that as a position. Boom. So again, you're going to spend the most time building all of these palettes. And when you do so in an organized way and by building them in these groups for your different lights, it's really going to speed up your programming as you use LightKey. Okay, back to the live tab then. If I wanted to just grab my lights and bring them at full, and turn them green and put them in a position just like that, I just built a button that does all that. Okay, and so you can see that right there. You know, we can turn them off right there, hit the button, it fades in, it fades out, and you can see all of that happens. And so that can be one of the really helpful things. And then we can rename it. Boom. And so there we made our button. A few things you might want to know about buttons is as you start to make more of them, if you bump them together like this rather than having them apart, it makes it so that only one of those cues can be alive at a time. So like here I can be in my all full green, and then I can go to the cyan. Back to the all full green, back to cyan. Now notice I didn't store position in the cyan cue, but I also didn't put a position in, so they don't move. If I did put a position in, now they switch on that cue. You can see that there, and the other stuff comes on and all that jazz. There are also cue lists, so if you manage live pages, you can add another live page or a cue list. I don't love cue lists just because, when you switch pages, you see that there, you automatically basically dump everything. So, I can add a new cue, and I can start to drag some stuff into it, right? And it's going to work the same way as the buttons. But essentially, I don't like using it because, one, I didn't like where I put two things on that. There it goes. I can drag it down here. So it doesn't like that, but also I don't love, I get that it's a more theatrical style, traditional cue list, and I've, programmed thousands of those. No, probably millions. Who knows? But the thing is, when you switch between, live buttons and the cue list, it dumps everything. It basically switches you back, which I guess is cool. Unless it doesn't do unless you didn't have up and prepared what you wanted, right? Like if I stop this cue list and I go back here, okay, lights are on, but then I go load the cue list, lights are off. So I don't love the way the cue lists work in LightKey. That's just one lighting guy's opinion. But overall, this is why we love LightKey, because it's simple. It works well. If you want to build an effect, for example, effects are as simple as selecting some lights, then going to the parameter you want to work with, let's say dimmer here, add effect, then they give you all of these options, okay? You can hit add. You adjust the effect with these various parameters, okay? We're not going to get into that today, but inside Learn Stage Lighting Labs, as well as other places, we have more tutorials on that stuff. You can make something that looks cool. Then, boom, new. You create a new effect. I definitely put that in the wrong folder. And now we've built that effect, just like anything else, into the preset palettes so that we can then build that into buttons on our live tab. Any other effect basically works the same way, where you just go, add an effect. There's different customization options for every type of effect, but essentially they all work the same way. Effects in LightKey are all tied to BPM. So in the live tab here, you have a master BPM. You can tap tempo that BPM. If you're using a program like Ableton Live, you can link that directly. If you're using another DAW, you can send MIDI tempo notes, and then it will link and it will sync to whatever your clock source is for that tempo. So it can be really powerful. You really can do a lot in there without spending a lot of time. Thinking of MIDI, if you use Ableton, it's real easy to integrate with LightKey. You pull up the plugin in Ableton. I can show you real quick. No, I can't. I'm on a Mac, not a PC. I have Ableton on my PC, but you can literally drag the presets in from Ableton. They sync automatically. It's cool. If you're using another DAW, I recommend MIDI mapping. Or if you're using, a hardware controller, like I've got, this little Korg Nano controller plugged in. Well, it's not plugged in. And it's really as simple. Actually, it was plugged in. Now it's unplugged, but we'll plug it back in. And if you want to assign, something like this at full to one of those controls, you totally can. You just right click on it, external control. Here you can copy your OSC address. So if you're using an OSC device, you can trigger it with OSC or just add trigger. Then you move it, boom, on the MIDI controller. Now it's linked. Now I have that control. So really simple, really easy. Same way if you were triggering from a DAW, you just wanted to click this button, external control, add trigger, fire a MIDI note from your DAW, done, and now it's linked. Now when I hit that note in my audio program, in my digital audio workstation, it goes. It's that simple. And so that's about all we're going to cover today. This is meant to kind of be a quick start, but as you can probably see, LightKey has a lot under the hood. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot it can do. It is an intermediate level lighting program, so it's easy to get started. It's easy to do stuff. You may find if you start to get a lot of lights or want to do really complex things that LightKey might not meet your needs anymore, in which case you want to look at something else. We have lots of options there. We talk about that stuff all the time here on Learn Stage Lighting, and if you need any help figuring out what lights to use, how to use LightKey, whatever, we are your place. So over at LearnStageLighting.com, we have a free guide to help you begin with lighting. We also have our Learn Stage Lighting Labs, which is a whole suite, a whole bevy of courses that are directly designed to help you have success for lighting your events, whatever those may be. And last but not least, if you need to buy lights and you're in the US, Learn Stage Lighting Gear is your place. Myself and other gear experts guard the inbox. We watch your quote requests and your contact form submissions come in. You can find products on the site, request a quote through the cart, or just email us, gear@learnstagelighting.com. We love to help people, help you find the right fit, and then get you that personalized pricing. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and be sure to subscribe here for more. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks.